Howdy y'all, I am Ice Gold, and today I'm making a video that I've wanted to make for quite a while, and if I'm being real, my buddy Fredzy will probably kill me for making it, but I am going to be covering all of the stitch gear, the school insignia stitch gear that you could find in Wiz, and there's a bunch of sets. There are 11 sets. Formerly 12, and I really wish the 12th one would come back, but that's for another time. This is going to be the definitive place to find all of your school stitch gear, like the stuff that I've got on. So let's just go ahead and get started, because we've got 11 whole sets to cover. So because I'm biased, I'm going to start with my the hat and robe stitch that I use just on my own characters. Now, the elegant set is what I've got going on here with this hat. The little feather and the symbol on the front. It looks kind of nice, if I do say so myself. And there are actually quite a few locations to get this stuff at. And there are a number of skeleton key bosses that will drop the gear, like the Ether Elemental here. This boss here in the northeast aeroplanes by the bridge. This boss will drop the elegant stitch gear, just the hats, and then there's also the robes and boots, but I am not using either the robe or the boots, but I am using the hat. So this is one of the places where you can get the elegant stitch hats. The second location to get all of the elegant set is here in Crab Alley at the Gold Skeleton Key Boss, the Spirit of Ignorance. And this boss has got kind of a unique fight, same as the Ether Elemental, but this boss will drop a lot of spell elements, but it will also drop, again, the elegant hat, robes, and boots with the school symbols on them, and it's pretty neat. But one thing to note, and I should mention this, there are actually versions like Sun, Moon, and Shadow, I believe, and Star, actually, that will all drop from the Ether Elemental, but not from here. So just keep that in mind. You can also buy the Scorch, that's a name? But yeah, you can buy the Astral and Shadow stuff from the Loyalty Store when they come around, but otherwise you gotta farm Ether Elemental. But Spirit of Ignorance will also drop the 7 schools, Fire Ice Storm with Life Theft Balance, all here. So this is another spot where you can find them. But we're not even done with the elegant set yet, which is kind of crazy to think about. The last spot where you can get every single piece of elegant gear on top of the star set is going to be here in Mirror Lake. Now this is the spot that I would recommend farming the absolute least, because the drop rates are just absolute horse, and just wouldn't recommend it, just in general. So that's where we're at here. But this is also where all of the whimsical gear will drop. So that's just something to keep in mind. The whimsical gear will also drop from here, same as the elegant gear. So if you're looking for either of those two sets, Mirror Lake is the place to farm. Now, another important thing to note is that throughout Arc 1, there are spots where you can just get a bunch of the sets, a bunch of different pieces of the sets, and the list is very, very extensive, so I'm just going to link the Final Bastion article that I've been referencing for this video down in the description. So, if you want to find the spots where you can get, like the other elegant hats that aren't, Mirror Lake, Ether Elemental, or Spirit of Ignorance, then that's where you could look, but those are the 3 that drop everything. So it is going to depend a lot on school, but most of where the school stitch gear will drop comes from Krokotopia, Marleybone, and Mooshu. That is where, there's secret bosses like Yakedo and Yukai in Crimson Fields and Tree of Life, respectively, out of Mooshu, that will drop a lot of the gear. There's also bosses like Smogger here in Marleybone, which I will get to in a bit. And there's a bunch of major bosses that that I will be naming for this video that will drop a lot of the gear. So for now, that's just a little tidbit of info. So next on the list for a set that drops all in one place is going to be the Celestial set. And you would think that it would drop in Celestia, but no, it drops here in Grizzleheim, and there's also a version in Caramel. So what you want to do is King Boar. King Boar will drop the spell elements for the Grizzleheim lore pack. So Alex here, this is a life wizard who probably is after Ratatosker's spin, because it is a very, very good low pip AoE for life to have. And, he might be farming this boss for that, but while he's farming for rat spin spell elements, he will also be getting the Celestial Stitch gear. And the Celestial gear, I don't use any of that on my character, but this is going to be the place to farm that. You can either do this or the Stay Puffed Marshfellow out in Caramel, and that's going to be in the Nibelheim Mines for those unaware. And personally, I would recommend Boar. Stay Puffed Marshfellow is it's a lot more annoying than this. I will say that. So that is my recommendation, but this is where the Celestial gear will drop. Now, the last set of gear, according to the article that might very well be very outdated, is the Daredevil set. And the Daredevil set I used to use a long time ago, same as the Whimsical set, which, as I mentioned, you can get from Mirror Lake, but the Daredevil set drops from here. Corporal Tennyson, now a Stone Key boss. That also drops some pretty neat level 125 robes. These are the only robes that drop from Arc 3 that actually give any damage, so they're a popular thing to use, although the boss isn't nearly as popular as he once was. But Corporal Tennyson, this guy will drop you all of your Daredevil stitch gear, and if you're looking for gear that looks like this is going to be where you farm that. So he's not too hard of a boss. He does have some pretty beefy health, but way back in the day, people made up all these strategies for him. You could fire Scion on turn like 3 or 4 whenever and probably get the kill, but this is where you get your Daredevil gear. Taking us on over to Krokotopia, there are a number of bosses here that will just drop a bunch of different sets. Not the full set, but it does depend on school. So the first one that you're going to want to look out for is Krokotopia. Now, Krokotopia, he has his own little dungeon here in the Palace of Fire called the Throne Room of Fire, and basically you can go after Krokotopia and he will drop the following pieces of gear. Depending on your school, the following pieces of gear sets will drop from bosses like Krokotopia here in Krokotopia. There's also Krokopatra, Krokotep, Taskmaster Jal, and just a bunch of other bosses, but these are the sets that can drop. You can get pieces of the Hermit set, you can get pieces of Mage's set, you can get pieces of the Cardinal set, pieces of the Regal set, and that's it. How about that? Anyway, so a bunch of bosses from here in Krokotopia will drop those sets. So if that is the look that you were going for, and I've thrown up all the pictures on screen of what they look like, so if those are the sets that you're going for, and some of them do look cool, so if that's what you're after, those are the bosses to farm. Of course, it all is going to depend on school, so definitely reference the article that I linked in the description from Final Bastion on it, and that's where you can do a lot of your farming for those specific sets here in Krokotopia. Moving on to Marleybone, the list is honestly so extensive for the sets that drop from here. You've got bosses like Meowiarty and Spike the Crusher up here in Big Ben. You've got Mugsy out in Newgate Prison that will drop some, like the Storm Rogue Robe. The Rogue Robe is what I've got on right now. And of course, I can't forget Dr. Von Katzenstein and Smogger, as well as bosses like Pops O'Leary and Old Smoky in the Ironworks. So do keep your eye out for all of those, but for each individual school, again, I will have the article that I'm using to reference for this video linked down in the description. So the following sets will drop from these Marleybone bosses. The Rogue set, Rogue Robe users represent. This robe is fire, I will say that much. And then pieces of the Daredevil set, those can drop from here, as well as Corporal Tennyson. The Jester's set, parts of the Whimsical sets, which drop from both, again, here and Mirror Lake. And formerly, 14, 15 years ago, the Pirates set, which has since been retired ever since, again, 14, 15 years ago. I wish it would come back, but if it ever does, this world here in Marleybone would be the place to farm for that. Finally, we have a bunch of bosses here in Mooshu that will drop from all of the remaining sets. These are bosses like the secret boss Yukai out in the Tree of Life, bosses like the Death Oni, bosses like Yakedo, another secret boss in the Crimson Fields, bosses like Oyatomi the Defiler out in the Village of Sorrow, and plenty more. This is also where you get the Stitch wands that I tend to use. These little, you know, glowing swords that with the school-specific type thing going on. So this is where you can farm for those. The article won't tell you where, but this is where you farm for those. Anyway, the following sets will drop from here in Mooshu. We have the Celestial set, so this is also an alternative on top of King Boar and the Stay Puft Marshmallow. The Clerics set, and lastly, the Elegance set. So there aren't as many sets that drop here in Mooshu, but the ones that do are pretty popular. Because, I mean, you have the Elegance set in there, people use the Clerics robes, that type of deal. So this is the place to farm for those. But that is going to wrap up for this video. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you learned something, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. I just wanted to show off where the Stay Puft Marshmallow is at. Just real quick, I don't know why my little arrow isn't appearing on the map, but okay. Cool, I guess. So, thank y'all for watching. I've been Ice Gold. Be sure to like, subscribe, and leave like 50 comments for the algorithm. My Discord is down in the description if you want to chat with me some more, and I will see y'all later.